Aarav Malhotra looked like the perfect groom, standing beneath crystal lights at a $2 million wedding in Canada, while Riya Sharma believed she was marrying a future built on trust, success, and security.
The wedding was presented as a once-in-a-lifetime celebration, carefully designed to impress everyone who attended. A grand banquet hall in Toronto was transformed into a palace of light, filled with crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers flown in from overseas, and endless rows of gold-draped tables. Every detail was planned to reflect wealth, status, and perfection. The groom, Aarav Malhotra, arrived with confidence, dressed in an expensive sherwani, surrounded by people introduced as close relatives and business associates. He was described as a successful real estate investor who had built a strong life in Canada. His calm manner and polished image convinced everyone that he was exactly who he claimed to be. The bride, Riya Sharma, came from a respected and affluent family in India. Her parents believed they were securing a powerful future for their daughter by agreeing to this match. Nearly $2 million were spent on the wedding, including jewelry, luxury vehicles, and international arrangements. The ceremony followed traditional rituals, blending cultural pride with modern extravagance. Guests admired the couple, capturing photos and videos, unaware that the entire event was unfolding on a fragile foundation. Despite the joyful atmosphere, subtle warning signs went unnoticed. The groom's family avoided detailed conversations and often changed subjects when asked about their background. Important documents were signed quickly without careful review. Schedules were tightly controlled, leaving little room for private discussions. Aarav remained close to his phone throughout the night, stepping away frequently and keeping his interactions brief. These moments appeared harmless at the time, dismissed as stress from hosting such a large event. As the final rituals concluded and guests began to leave, the celebration felt complete. Applause echoed through the hall, blessings were exchanged, and promises were assumed. Behind the confident image presented at the wedding, Aarav's life was quietly falling apart. The successful investor persona was built on borrowed money, false promises, and carefully edited stories. In reality, his real estate ventures had failed years earlier, leaving him trapped in a cycle of debt that continued to grow. Creditors were closing in, bank accounts were nearly empty, and legal notices had begun to arrive at addresses he no longer used. His immigration status in Canada was also unstable, with extensions denied and deadlines approaching fast. Time was running out, and desperation had replaced caution. The marriage was never about partnership or commitment. It was a calculated solution to multiple problems at once. By marrying into a wealthy family, Aarav gained access to large financial transfers, luxury assets, and the promise of long-term security. Marriage also offered a path to legal residency, something he could no longer achieve through business or employment. Every ritual at the wedding doubled as proof for future immigration applications. Photographs, guest lists, and official certificates were collected with precision, not emotion. While guests celebrated, Aarav quietly moved money through a network of temporary accounts. Gifts meant for the couple were quickly separated, converted, and redirected. Jewelry was insured and documented, ready to be sold if needed. Even before the wedding ended, financial safeguards were being dismantled. He had done this before under different names, targeting families who trusted appearances and social status. What made this situation more dangerous was its scale. The amount of money involved was far larger than any previous attempt. One mistake could expose everything. Small delays in documentation and unexpected questions from the bride's side created tension. Aarav knew that once doubts formed, control would be lost. The first signs of trouble appeared quietly, without drama or confrontation. While organizing post-wedding formalities, Riya noticed inconsistencies in the documents linked to Aarav's identity. Dates did not align, addresses led to temporary locations, and certain registration numbers failed basic verification. At first, these details seemed like minor clerical errors, common in international paperwork. Still, something felt wrong. The sense of unease grew stronger as each new detail raised more questions instead of answers. A routine background check, requested to finalize immigration and property records, revealed deeper problems. Aarav's work history showed long gaps that were never explained. His business licenses had expired years earlier, and some companies listed under his name no longer existed. Even more alarming, one of his previous names appeared in a confidential fraud database. This discovery shifted concern into fear. The marriage, celebrated only hours earlier, suddenly felt unstable and unsafe. Riya's family acted quickly but carefully. Legal advisors were contacted to review the findings, and financial institutions were asked to freeze recent transfers until clarification could be obtained. Each step confirmed the worst suspicions. The wealth, success, and stability promised by Aarav were mostly illusions supported by false records and borrowed credibility. The advisors warned that authorities should be notified immediately, but timing mattered. Acting too fast could lead to sudden disappearance. Meanwhile, Aarav sensed that control was slipping away. His movements became more deliberate, and he avoided shared spaces whenever possible. He monitored emails and calls closely, watching for any sign of exposure. Preparations were quietly made to leave the city if necessary. What should have been a peaceful post-wedding night turned into a period of silent tension. The atmosphere shifted completely as the night moved toward early morning. The luxury hotel suite, once prepared for celebration, became unnervingly quiet. Staff noticed unusual activity when room service went unanswered and security access logs showed unexpected movements. Just before dawn, an emergency call was placed after Riya was found unconscious. Paramedics arrived quickly, but the situation was already critical. She showed no signs of struggle, yet her condition suggested deliberate harm. She was rushed to the hospital while authorities secured the area. Within hours, the joyful wedding venue transformed into an active crime scene. Police sealed off the suite, collecting glasses, containers, and personal items. Early medical findings pointed toward poisoning, something subtle and planned rather than impulsive. As investigators pieced together timelines, they discovered that Aarav had left the hotel shortly before the emergency call. Surveillance footage showed him exiting calmly with a small bag, avoiding cameras where possible. His departure stood out immediately. Hospital staff worked urgently, but Riya did not survive. The news sent shockwaves through both families and turned the wedding into a national tragedy. Media outlets quickly picked up the story, focusing on the contrast between the extravagant ceremony and the sudden death. What had appeared to be a private family matter was now under public scrutiny. Investigators connected the death to the fraud discoveries made hours earlier. The timing was impossible to ignore. Exposure, financial loss, and legal consequences were closing in on Aarav, leaving no room for escape without drastic action. Authorities issued an alert as his whereabouts became unknown. What began as a marriage investigation officially escalated into a homicide case. By sunrise, the illusion of luxury and success was gone. The grand celebration had ended in silence, replaced by flashing lights, sealed doors, and unanswered quests.
As the investigation deepened, authorities began uncovering a pattern that went far beyond a single marriage. Financial analysts traced the flow of money linked to the wedding and discovered that large sums had been moved within hours of the ceremony. These transfers passed through multiple temporary accounts before disappearing offshore. The timing confirmed that the scam had reached its final stage just before the crime occurred. What initially appeared to be a personal tragedy was now clearly part of a larger, deliberate operation. Background checks revealed that Aarav had used several identities over the years. Under different names, he had been connected to similar marriages in other countries, each involving wealthy families and rapid engagements. In every case, the relationship ended abruptly, followed by financial losses and unanswered questions. The current case stood out only because it ended in death. Immigration records showed repeated visa extensions, denied applications, and warnings that he was close to losing legal status in Canada. Forensic experts analyzed evidence collected from the hotel suite. Toxicology reports confirmed the presence of a rare poison, one not easily available and requiring careful handling. Purchase records showed it had been obtained weeks before the wedding, proving intent. Investigators also found insurance policies taken out shortly after the engagement, listing significant assets acquired through marriage. These details strengthen the case that everything had been planned well in advance. Authorities interviewed vendors, planners, and guests, discovering that many individuals presented as family members were not related to Aarav at all. Some were paid to attend events, reinforcing his false image. Each revelation stripped away another layer of the deception. By the end of the week, the case had shifted fully from suspicion to certainty. With enough evidence pointing toward Aarav, authorities moved quickly to prevent his escape. His name and images were circulated across airports, train stations, and border crossings. Financial institutions were ordered to flag any attempt to access accounts connected to him. What made the search difficult was his experience in disappearing. He had already abandoned his primary phone, switched vehicles, and avoided places connected to his public identity. Each move suggested careful preparation rather than panic. Investigators tracked his movements through indirect clues. Rental records showed short-term bookings made under false names in nearby cities. Toll cameras captured a vehicle matching his description moving away from Toronto during the early hours after the crime. Surveillance teams pieced together these fragments, slowly narrowing his possible route. The media coverage increased public awareness, turning the case into a national manhunt. Tips poured in, some helpful, many misleading. As pressure mounted, Aarav attempted to move toward a remote border area, believing it offered less scrutiny. He relied on cash and avoided digital transactions, but past patterns worked against him. Facial recognition systems flagged him at a small transit station, triggering an alert. Authorities moved in carefully, knowing his desperation made him unpredictable. After several tense hours, he was located in a quiet town near the border. He was arrested without incident, carrying documents linked to multiple identities and a portion of the stolen funds. The capture marked a turning point in the case. For the first time since the wedding, investigators had direct access to the person at the center of the tragedy. The arrest brought relief, but not closure. Questions remained about how the scam had lasted so long and how many others had been affected. As Aarav was taken into custody, the focus shifted from pursuit to accountability, ensuring that the truth behind the deception. The trial drew intense public attention, reflecting the scale of the crime and the tragedy behind it. Court proceedings revealed a carefully structured scheme built over several years. Financial experts explained how false companies were created, used briefly, and then abandoned to hide money movement. Immigration records showed repeated attempts to secure legal status through deception rather than legitimate means. Every document presented stripped away the image of success that Aarav had displayed so confidently. Forensic evidence became a key factor in the case. Specialists confirmed that the poison found in Riya's system required planning, controlled handling, and advance purchase. Transaction histories showed the substance had been acquired weeks before the wedding, eliminating any claim of accident. Digital data recovered from seized devices connected Aarav directly to research on undetectable toxins and escape routes. The timeline left no room for doubt. Witness accounts from planners and vendors revealed how appearances were manufactured. Many individuals presented as relatives were later identified as paid participants. Luxury items displayed during the wedding were leased temporarily, not owned. Insurance policies and legal forms tied to the marriage were designed to secure assets immediately. The wedding was shown to be a strategic event rather than a personal commitment. The defense attempted to challenge the evidence, but failed to explain the consistent pattern of fraud and preparation. Each argument collapsed under documented proof. As proceedings continued, the emotional impact of the case became clear. The courtroom represented more than one crime. It symbolized betrayal of trust, misuse of tradition, and exploitation of systems meant to protect people. The verdict delivered justice. Aarav was convicted on multiple charges, including murder, fraud, and identity theft. The sentence ensured permanent imprisonment. The ruling closed the legal chapter. The aftermath of the case extended far beyond the courtroom. Riya's death became a painful reminder of how trust can be manipulated through appearances, wealth, and social pressure. Her family, once focused on celebration and status, redirected their grief into action. They worked with legal experts and community organizations to raise awareness about marriage fraud, especially within immigrant communities where such crimes often go unreported. Their goal was to prevent others from falling into similar traps. Authorities also faced difficult questions. Investigations revealed weaknesses in immigration checks, financial oversight, and background verification processes. Government agencies began reviewing policies that allowed false identities to pass through multiple systems without detection. Training programs were introduced to help officials recognize patterns of relationship-based fraud. While these changes came too late to save Riya, they marked an important step toward accountability. Media coverage slowly shifted from shock to reflection. The extravagant wedding footage, once admired, became a symbol of how easily luxury can hide deception. Public discussions focused on the danger of equating wealth with honesty and speed with commitment. Families began taking extra precautions, conducting independent background checks and legal reviews before major decisions. The story left a lasting emotional impact. It showed how a crime can begin quietly, wrapped in tradition and celebration, before revealing its true nature. Riya's life was reduced to headlines, but her legacy became a warning that reached far beyond one country or community. The tragedy emphasized that trust must be earned, not assumed. Long after the case closed, its lessons remained. Behind polished images and grand promises can exist carefully planned harm. This story stands as a reminder that vigilance, patience, and truth are essential safeguards. When ignored, the cost can be devastating.